Hello dear students. Today we will discuss Kushana Empire and their administrative apparatus. The objectives of this study are to understand the political milieu of Central Asia under the Kushanas, to highlight the political expansion of Kushanas from Central Asia towards South Asia, to analyze different strategies employed by Kushan emperors to expand their empire, to understand the administrative apparatus under Kushanas. Now, introduction. The Kushan Empire was founded by the Kushan clan of the Yuchi nomad confederacy in Bactria, Tokhristan. By the middle of the 2nd century CE, this empire appears to have stretched from the Hisar range in northern Bactria, Tokhristan to the city of Sri Kempa on the Ganges through military conquest. However, the true extent of Kushan rule and its precise nature remains unknown. In approximately 230 BCE, the heartland of Bactria Tokhristan fell to the Sasanian king Ardashir I, who established the so-called Kushano-Sasanian kingdom there. A century later, Kushan power in Gandhara and northern Punjab seems to have ended. Even though the name Kushan sounds like a dynastic name, its origins and meaning are unknown. It might have been a title instead, coming from the clan name of the Yabgu of the Gusheng when Bactria was ruled by the Yuchi, or from a place name connected to the clan that no longer exists. So far, the word Kushan has been linked to the names of all kings from Kujala Kadpises to Vasudeva II, except for Vima Kadpises, who is called Kanishka's father in an inscription from Rabatak. The last three Kushan kings, Mahi to Kipu Nanda, are only known from their coins. However, because they minted types of coins that were unique to the Kushanas, it is appropriate to consider them to have been Kushan kings. Now, political history. The Yuchi were a group of nomadic herders who were the ancestors of the Kushanas. Before the Yuchi moved to Bactria, little is known about their history. Chinese historical records suggest that their first home was in the Gansu corridor. Multiple sources say that their fights with other nomadic confederacies, especially the Xiongnu's attacks on the Yuchi in the last 3rd century BCE, caused the Yuchi to move to Bactria slowly. But the exact route they took is still a point of debate. The Yuchi come here after the middle of the 2nd century BCE. In 128 BCE, the Han ambassador Zhang Qian went to their court and tried to make a military alliance with them against the Xiongnu, but he failed. During their time in Bactria, the Yuchi were led by 5 Yabgus, which means allied princes. The Hanshu, documents of the Han, was the first source to list the realms and places of authority of each Yuchi Yabgu. The Yabgu of Xiaomi, with its seat at the town of Himo, probably ruled in Karatigin in the Upper Vaksh. The Yabgu of Shuangmi, with its center at the town of Shuangmi, probably ruled in Hisar. The Yabgu of Gusheng, with its seat at the town of Huzhou, seems to have ruled in Wakshu or Wakshab. The Yabgu of Zidun, with its seat at Bomao, probably ruled the Kafirningen Valley, and the Yabgu of Gaufu seems to have had its heart at Gaufu, that is modern terms. It appears that the Yuchi struck imitation coins of Eucratides I and Heliochilus I, 2 of the last Greco-Bactrian kings to rule in West Bactria. These were followed by the enigmatic silver coins of Heroias, mistakenly derived from the Greek legend Tyrannotus Elvau Koranau. The obverse features the unique bust of a ruler with a moustache and a diadem. At the same time, the reverse depicts the same ruler in Central Asian Iranian dress on horseback with a bow hanging from the saddle. The issuing authority is believed to have been a pre-imperial Kushan Yabgu, or the first known Kushan king Kujala Kadphises, who ascended to power around 50 CE. During a power struggle with his brother Gotarizes II, the Arsakid king Vedanius I reportedly sought refuge in the plains of the Bactrians before regaining authority and leading a successful campaign against his brother Dahi. This event may help interpret the painted clay sculptures of Kalchian, a Yuchi temple or ceremonial pavilion of uncertain age. The sculpture, which includes a mounted battle scene, appears to commemorate a victory over a group of Saka. Several figures share the same facial features and attire as those on the Helios coins. Granitus hypothesizes that the central panel depicting an Arsakid or Parthian noble may be a portrait of Verdaninus I. However, an earlier date and different historical circumstances are also possible. The beginnings of the Kushana Empire are still a mystery. The best account of them is in Hu Hanshu, which was written by the later Han in the 5th century CE. Kujala took control of the Yuchi and captured Kapisa, Gandhara, and Taxila. The Kushana's involvement in the diplomatic and military activities of Banchkao and the Kushana's diplomatic relations during this time are also covered in the Hu Hanshu. Bankao allegedly attacked Yarkand in 84 CE. The Kangju, another nomadic tribe that ruled over Chach and much of Sogdania, provided military support for the Kashgar king's uprising. Due to a recent marriage between the Kushanas and the Kangju, Bankao sent Kujala gifts made of silk and asked him to persuade the Kangju to stop supporting the king of Kashgar. The Kushanas sent an envoy with a tribute of precious stones, antelopes, and lions after Bankao defeated Yarkand. Still, their demand for a Han princess in marriage was denied, leading to ensuing hostility towards the Han. In his last years, Kujala also seems to have started the new copper Sotermegas, which bore the legend Basilias Basilian Sotermegas, which means King of Kings or Great Savior, and was minted to a lower Attic standard. However, most of his coinage appears to have been produced by Vima Taktu, Kujala's son and successor. Vima Taktu kept trying to increase Kushan control through conquest. Historical accounts from China referred to a failed military expansion into the Tarim Basin in 90 CE. A 70,000 strong force, perhaps under the command of Vima Taktu, attacked Bankao west of Kucha. Vima, who was short on supplies, sent envoys to the king of Kucha with gifts of gold, silver, pearls, and jade to ask for assistance. However, Bankao set up an ambush and killed the envoys. The Kushanas allegedly began paying tribute to the Han every year after Vima sent an envoy to Bankao as a sign of peace. Southeast-based Vima's exploits were more prosperous. He overran Tianzu, northwest India up to Mathura, and put a general in charge of its governance, which is said to have made the Kushanas very wealthy. By constructing a Devakula, that is, house of the gods at Mathura, Vima appears to have strengthened his hold on the Mathura region. The exact religious practices and beliefs involved are still unknown. Still, this poorly documented structure was adorned with overlife sculptures of the Kushan kings and deities. Vima Taktu also carved a trilingual inscription that may have served as a declaration of authority or a boundary marker on a boulder upon a ridge of Mount Karabau. The languages that were used were Gandhari, the so-called unknown language, and Bactrian, the natively spoken language of the country, written in a modified Greek alphabet. Vima Kadphises, Vima Taktu's successor, is best known for introducing regular gold coinage and struck a new unit known as the dinar. On these coins, Vima Kadphises created innovative and distinctive designs that reflect the royal identity of Kushan. A single rock inscription at Khalatse near Leh bears his name, perhaps of the year 112 CE. During the reign of Vima Kadphises, the Kushanas reportedly became entangled with dynastic issues in Kashgar. Chanpan, the maternal uncle of the king of Kashgar, was exiled to the Kushanas, who allegedly grew very fond of him. When the king of Kashgar died without an heir and a young relative ascended the throne, Kushan soldiers escorted Chanpan back to Kashgar and installed him as king. Vima Kadphises was succeeded by his son Kanishka I, who is relatively well known to history through memories and legends in later Buddhist texts relating his conquests, supernatural powers, wickedness, and personal patronage of Buddhism. Thankfully, two contemporary Bactrian inscriptions shed more light on Kanishka's rise to power and South Asian conquests. The Rabtak inscription, which was discovered in 1993 at an unexcavated Bagalongo, is replete with historical information that has revolutionized Kushan studies. This inscription mentions Kanishka's establishment of a new era and notes that the king spent the first 6 years of his reign pacifying all India. Here, all of India refers to the captured urban centers of the Gangetic plains, including Saketa, Kosambi, Pataliputra, and Sri Kampa. The inscription on the silver dish of Nukunsuk indicates that the king returned to Bactria Tokhristan from India in approximately 137 CE. It is difficult to determine the historicity of Kanishka's other military campaigns and the extent of his power as described in later texts. The Chinese Buddhist pilgrim Zhuangzang of the 7th century CE reported that Kanishka had expanded his territory into the Tarim Basin. A Chinese Buddhist text from the 5th century CE described an assault by the king of Angzi, from which Kanishka emerged victorious. The same text provides a moralizing and mythologized account of the king's demise, in which his ministers, sick of Kanishka's insatiable desire for conquest, suffocated him after he became ill. Kanishka was not merely a conqueror. Kanishka's interest in material and symbolic expressions of his royal and dynastic authority is manifested unambiguously in the Rabtak inscription. This is evident not only in his inauguration of a new regnal era, but also in the central portion of the Rabtak inscription, which records Kanishka's order for a Karal Rang to establish a temple to a pantheon of gods to be fitted with the images of these gods as well as the images of Kanishka and previous kings. The founding act recalls Bhima Taktu's founding of the Devakula at Mat and the Bagalongo at Surkotal. In addition, Bactrian replaces Greek as the official imperial language during Kanishka's reign. This is evidenced by the Rabtak inscription, which states that Kanishka issued a Greek edict and then translated into Aryan. Similarly, Kanishka's coin legends were exclusively inscribed in Bactrian. Thus, the reign of Kanishka appears to have marked by a deliberate revival of Iranian vocabulary of power. During the reign of King Huvishka, the dimensions of Kushana Empire appeared to have contracted, but some political problems can be inferred. For instance, his coinage weight standard dropped, and Nukunzuk, the Karal Rang's installation of a well at the sanctuary, is mentioned in the main inscription at Surkotal as a pious defense against an enemy attack. Similarly, little is known about Huvishka's successor Vasudeva I, although there are some indications of diplomatic activity during his reign. Vasudeva appears to have sent tribute bearing envoys to the Chinese capital in 230 CE, possibly seeking assistance in anticipation of the Sasanian adversary. However, the loss of Bactria Tokhristan to Sasanian invaders under Ardashir I in around 230 CE, followed by the establishment of the so-called Kushano-Sasanians, whose kings were known as Kushansha, dealt the empire a fatal blow. The Kushano-Sasanians may have been a semi-autonomous cadet branch of the Sasanian royal family, possibly given the name Kushan because they may have ruled over a region that was once under Kushan control. These kings had Sasanian names like Ardashir, Piroz, Hormuz, and Varahran, but Kushan and Sasanian designs were combined in their coinage. Further clarification is still needed regarding the sequence of events leading up to and during the Sasanian Kushano-Sasanian advance across the former Kushan realm. It appears that the Sasanian king Ardashir I invaded Bactria Tokhristan around 230 CE, establishing a Bactria-based Kushano-Sasanian Ardashir in his place. Capisa's expansion may have started around 260 CE during the reign of Kushano-Sasanian king Piroz I. The Kushan Shahar was said to have extended as far as Peshawar in the trilingual inscription of Shapur I at Kaaba Zartosht, and Gandhara seems to have remained a contentious region between the Kushano-Sasanians and Kushanis for almost a century after that. The Sasanian rock relief of Ragi Bibi in northern Afghanistan, which shows a man identified as Shapur I hunting rhinoceros, attests to a direct Sasanian presence in this region. The history of the Kushan kings following Vasudeva is dubious and disputed. The Brahmi inscriptions on the coins of the last three Kushan kings are the only source by which we are aware of their names: Mahi, Saka, and Kipunanda. A plausible reconstruction suggests that the expansion of burgeoning Kushano-Sasanian and Gupta power led to the gradual construction of the Kushan realm. Through the expansion of the Kidarite Huns from Bactria Tokhristan, the presence of the Kushans and Kushano-Sasanians in Gandhara and northern Punjab was finally eliminated. Now, administration of Kushanas. Although there is still a dearth of direct evidence, it is possible to assume that a sophisticated and administrative structure supported the Kushan Empire. Even if the specifics of their roles and the hierarchy are still unknown, epigraphic evidence attests to the positions held by the intermediaries who stood between the king and his subjects. One of the highest positions, the title of Karal Rang, that is Lord of the March, is mentioned in inscriptions written in the Bactrian language. This title is given to the Sasanian northeastern frontier province's warden, equivalent to the later attested Middle Persian Kanarang. Although the epigraphic evidence only records Kararangas establishing or enriching Bagalangos, a similar function can be deduced for the Kushan context. The high status is made clear by the Surkotal inscription, which also refers to Nukunzuk, the Karal Rang, as Lord's favorite, who is most dear to the king, or the second in command. The Rabatic inscription associates Piash and Shafar with the position of Karal Rang, suggesting that the position may have existed for several frontier provinces. Other names mentioned in the Bactrian inscriptions, like Embukau and Hashtuvag, still need to be clarified regarding their purpose. But according to the epigraphic record, the same Nukunzuk is seen rising from an embukau during the rule of Vima Kadphises to a Hest Walug during the reign of Kanishka, and finally reaching Kararang during the rule of Huvishka. This suggests a hierarchy of high offices and mobility within them. We are more familiar with the other offices listed. The titles Satrapa and Great Satrap, which are unquestionable of Iranian origin, are attested in Gandhara as early as the middle of the 1st century BCE. However, these titles appear to denote variously nobility, regional governance, or independent rule when they are attached to the names of different Indo-Scythians from Jalalabad to Ujjain in the succeeding centuries. However, using the title in obvious Kushan rule, contexts may denote a governing office. An unusual inscription on a bull and camel coin produced by Vima Takhtu seems to identify a king's descendant as Mahashatrapa. In addition, a Gandhari inscribed reliquary casket from Manikyala Stupa, east of Taxila, refers to a Kapisa Kshatrapa who is the son of another Kshatrapa, suggesting this position may be inherited. Epigraphical hybrid Sanskrit inscriptions start to contain professional titles with Iranian origins as the Kushan invasion of India approaches. There are numerous instances such as Hamara Kara and Gaja Hamara Kara, which designate a treasury account keeper. Khara Selarpati, a different term, has been translated as chief of the army chiefs. It is likely only a matter of time before similar material from the Kushan period is discovered, given the recent appearance of documentary texts from the Achaemenid and Kushano-Sasanian periods in Bactria. The later Bactrian language corpus could provide tangential insights into Kushan era customs. The use of Bactrian in lower level bureaucratic documentation in the middle of the 2nd century is only partially supported by the discovery of the language on fragments of papyrus in what appears to be an archive at Kampret Tepa. With this, we come to the end of today's topic. Thank you.